Capablanca's theorem, queen and knight are stronger than queen and bishop. But when applying this, you must be very careful, I think, and probably it should be added, if queen and knight have one further big advantage, like an attack against the enemy king, a dangerous passed pawn, domination on a color complex, the bishop is bad or hits the air, or what better pawn structure or strong knight on outpost or whatever. So queen and knight need one further big advantage, I think, and then they really have good chances. Yeah, the reason why they should be stronger is that queen and knight are as duo of pieces less redundant than queen and bishop, because the knight and the queen are completely different pieces. They move in completely different ways and indeed are strong when attacking the enemy king on a weak color complex like in Dili, Nisipiano, Dubai 2002. Here black is winning, of course, and even has an extremely strong move which is easy to miss over the board. Yeah, queen and bishop are of course more redundant, but as the queen can sometimes also move to dark squares and complement the bishop, and then the redundancy is of course very, very reduced. Yeah, they are also good, and they have their own trump cards if the knight is bad, and so on and so on. They have dynamical play, the bishop is active, or they both attack on a color complex. So Capablanca's theorem must be not applied automatically. You must develop an intuition for these cases. Okay, but here in the given position, black to move is indeed winning. He has a strong passed pawn, his queen and knight are near white's king, and white's king has not too many defenders. Yeah, black to move and win. Okay, maybe you should calculate queen g1 check and queen e5 check a bit. Do this, press the pause button and then calculate both lines a bit. And after that, come back here and then find the winning resulting move which diverts the defense in all cases. Now it is easier for you, of course, than it was for Nisipiano. After all this introduction, it is probably clear that a2 is the winner. Now the pawn must be taken, and then one of the defenders is deflected in a fatal way, and it's over. Here the shacks will run out, and then the king is lost. The attack crushes through. Nice mating pattern. Okay, and if the queen takes, then the other variation, then of course we have seen it just, and it was given by Valerie Beim in How to Calculate Chess Tactics. And if the bishop takes, then the other variation works now, as the bishop no longer defends the b1 h7 diagonal and is deflected. Now black wins by this series of checks. King f5 runs into the knight fork, and king h5 into the mate. In the game, Nisipiano played queen g1 check. This is also strong, but of course the other variation is better. But here, okay, his idea was of course to take the pawn with check, but this is a mistake. I think queen c1 is better. Black still has the attack and the passed pawn, and should be winning here. But it is more complicated, but the computer indicates that queen c1 is better and winning. Nisipiano obviously wanted to take the pawn with check, but now the difference is seen. The bishop defends g6. The queen to a dark square, typical maneuver. But after king h6, black is better, but it's not completely clear due to the reduced winning potential. While after king g8, the queen and knight attacking duo could again show its power, and it was game over. One further example with a slightly different scenario. Vladimir Kramnik, Nikita Viturov, Alekhine Memorial 2013. White to move and win. Black's bishop is restricted by the Kramnik's kingside pawns and hits the heir on the queen side, while the dark squares in Black's camp are all weak, especially on the queen side, and the knight is very agile here, very strong, and the queen also. But Kramnik has a direct blow here, which is important. Because after knight d5, it's not clear, and Black probably, at least has for the moment, good chances to defend. But after b5, it's completely different. The resulting passed a pawn now decides the day, as the knight is the best friend of the king. Another very good guideline, which can also be used in the middle game. And there are these typical patterns where, the knight shelters the king. Here Viturov resigned, as his series of checks will run out, and the knight shields the king very, very well. The knight is the best friend of the king, another good guideline, meaning that in such kind of positions you have good chances that the opponent will run out of checks, exactly what is the case here in the game Kramnik-Viturov. Here it was a different scenario. The queen and the pawns won on one wing, and the knight defended the king, while Black's bishop had no real role. And that is always a bad sign for a piece, of course. The game is also interesting in general, how Kramnik allowed Viturov to exchange his knights for Kramnik's bishops, but in the end Kramnik showed that his knight is strong, and Kramnik seems to be a player who in some way likes the knight, if I can oversimplify it like that. Study his games if you want to see strong knights and knight mass for the opponent. And Capablanca's theorem, queen and knight are stronger than queen and bishop, must be taken with a very, very large grain of salt, and probably, that there should be added if they have one further big advantage, whatever, that they can attack the enemy king, the bishop is bad, or hits the heir, the color complex is weak, and so on and so on. Such further big advantage, I think, is needed, and then it does make sense, as queen and knight are less redundant than queen and bishop. But of course, in more open positions where the bishop has more dynamics, where it can attack, or the knight is bad, or so on, it might be completely different. So don't go into the endgame because you have the queen and knight and the opponent queen and bishop. The game doesn't work like this at all. The guidelines cannot be applied like this. You need to look at the given specific position and at the features of it, and then look if there are features for your knight. Otherwise, don't trade down into such an endgame, because there, of course, are also many, many scenarios where the bishop is better or where the position is more or less equal. I, of course, here selected two examples where the guideline was valid.